How you guys doing? So this is Neil bringing you guys another tutorial, and this time how to paint with gouache. I'll be talking about really quickly what gouache is, why you might want to paint with it, some of the upsides and downsides, and a lot of tips on how I do this painting here. I recommend starting with a nice pencil drawing of whatever it is you're going to be doing this to. In this case, it's going to be Sharon Tate. I use a paper towel there, but before I continue talking about what I'm doing, I wanted to say one brief thing. Stick to me to the end. I'll be doing a lot of art giveaways here soon. So if you guys want to know how to get on that, then go ahead and subscribe for sure. Hit the little bell icon for hit notifications. And very soon here, in the next few videos, I will be giving away a lot of expensive art materials, from maybe even these paints here to different kinds of paper, brushes, other kinds of paints, and really importantly, I'm going to be giving away my older Wacom Cintiq tablet that brand new costs $1,000. All right, so that's where you paint right on the screen. It's really, really awesome. I just updated to a different one a while ago. I just was keeping it as backup just in case, but they like last a lifetime. So, right, so the first thing I want to do is lay down your darks. And this is what I recommend with a nice tonal drawing. So this way you already have all the tones worked out, that we don't have to think about anything while you're painting, because these paints, well, in the style that I use here is a patchwork style, or what people would refer to as cell shading. And that's how I recommend using it. So starting from the darkest darks, lay those down first, and then work your way up. So with a good tonal drawing laid down first, and this is done on 400 series Strathmore watercolor paper. I don't recommend using a really expensive watercolor paper for gouache. It's not necessary unless you're going to be doing a lot of washes. If you're working opaque like I am here, then there's absolutely no reason to have that expensive watercolor paper, because these really don't work. They kind of work like watercolors when they're thinned down, but not like you would think. Not as much, but they can kind of simulate that kind of, I don't know, opaque watercolor look, I guess, when you thin them down a lot. You can't do glazes with this like you can acrylics and things like that, because they are water activated. So, and it's water activated forever until you put a sealant on it, meaning that at any given time you can go back and blend in with just water. So you have to keep away from moisture and things like that. And so yeah, anyway, so what you want to do is just, with a good tonal drawing, all you have to do is just kind of figure out where each tone goes. You can actually just match up your tone to the tone that's in the drawing. It makes it a lot easier that way than having to, let's say, look at your reference and then keep matching up your tones with your brush. This way it's already right there on your paper. And makes it a lot easier to work that way. What I should have done is laid in light color around the cheek, chin, and forehead. Instead, I just put it all in the same color. But anyway, I'm working with a 5-color limited palette. I like it. It makes things very simple. You can make all the colors you want with this. It's ultramarine blue, burnt umber, alizarin red, or I don't know how that's said, but that particular red, and then yellow ochre, and then titanium white if you can find it. I think though with the gouache, this is a Winsor & Newton, very expensive stuff. Like some of them are $35 a bottle for just 15 milliliters. And you go through a lot of this paint, so it's a really ridiculous expensive paint, even more expensive than really expensive oils. I'll talk about a little bit how it works and kind of how it feels here in just a second. But yeah, then I put it on a damp paper towel. That way it stays moist longer. You can also make your homemade wet palette, or you can buy a wet palette. That's what I probably should have done. I was going to do that, but I decided not to. But anyway, you can basically do that with either a kind of a fine sponge, or take a couple paper towels and get them damp, squeeze a little bit of water out, and then fold them up to whatever size you want, and then wrap parchment paper around it. Not wax paper, but parchment paper. You can find that in the cooking aisle. And then put that on there and put your paints right on top of that. I recommend soaking the parchment paper for about 15 minutes in warm water, or actually hot water. And then that's going to help it kind of get more wet and a little bit looser. And then just kind of shake it off and then wrap that around or set it on top of your paper towels, and that acts as a wet palette. You put the paints right on the parchment paper. That'll make it to where it doesn't bleed into the paper towel. And but I wasn't too worried about it because I didn't think I was going to use that much paint, but I ended up using more paint than I thought. My dog's back there barking. All right, so gouache how it feels. When you work with it thin, it feels kind of like watercolor, sort of. When you work with it thick, it kind of feels like sort of like oil in a way, at least when you're putting it down, and kind of like acrylic, sort of like a mixture like oil and acrylic, but it dries super fast, even faster than acrylic. And because of that, you need to work in patches or in cell shading type fashion. And as you can see, that works out really good when you work in the cell shaded. Just make sure to really keep the lightest lights, because this stuff does usually dry a little bit differently than what you put down. That's one of the negatives of this paint. Sometimes the darks will dry darker or lighter, or sometimes the lights will dry darker. In this case, the color I laid down dried darker than what I wanted it to be, and so then I had to go back and re-add lights. But if you happen to do that, I'll show you an easy way to work that out. Because it's water activated, if you put a light color on top of a darker color, then when you try to blend it out at all, it'll even if you don't blend it out, if it's not super thick, it's going to pick up the dark color, it's going to bleed through the light color, and you'll get this kind of patchy looking nonsense. You don't want that. So to avoid that, you want to leave those, like, basically treat it like watercolor, like you're mapping it out, and for the lightest areas, put in your lightest colors, and then you're going to blend later. And when you blend, you're just going to blend with water. So in this way, it's kind of like oil. You lay down your areas that you want to be there. You can also work in, like, patch style, or like kind of like, I guess, impressionism, where you just like lay down a bunch of little brush strokes and never blend them, and you can get that kind of look out of it. Now these do dry a very matte looking color. It doesn't matter whether you get the most expensive, like I got the most expensive gouaches on the market, and they still dry this very matte color. Now you can kind of avoid that. You can probably avoid it by even maybe blending with kind of a, instead of blending with water, maybe blend with a type of oil. That'd be interesting to try. It'd also make it a lot, stay wet for a lot longer, almost like oils. But anyway, so here I'm just blocking in the hair using the different colors, and you can do dark on top of light, but keep in mind when you do blend those colors together, some of that light will come up through it. So you kind of want to put the colors exactly where you want them. Now if you want some of the colors to kind of bleed through and blend together, that's fine. If you kind of want them to blend together, when you just have to keep blending, almost like you're blending on the actual paper itself when you work that way. Yeah, I just don't recommend doing it unless you know exactly what the result's going to be. And so here you can notice that I'm just taking a wet brush, and now I'm putting some white down there. You're going to see here several times that after it dries, the darker color will pull through it, and then I have to keep making it darker and darker, so or thicker and thicker paint, and then it makes it harder to blend. And every time you blend, you have to use water. So unless you can blend it out really fast, like while it's still like sort of wet, and I never did try using any kind of like oil medium, but that'd be interesting. Maybe some walnut oil, just a little bit. I just don't know if it'd mix with the, because it's a water-based paint. I don't think it'd stick to it or bind to it. So, but anyway, so maybe trying to think of other ways you can get it to stay. I don't know if they have like like oil, maybe the acrylic stuff they use, the stuff, because that's water soluble stuff, and get a acrylic retarder maybe. That might work with this paint and make it basically makes the paint stay wet longer. But see that patchwork coming through? I'm going to show you a really cool trick I do with the blow dryer that you can work really fast with gouache. That's the one benefit with gouache, is you can work really fast because it dries so quickly. And I finished this in 2 hours. That's how long this took me. It actually took me exactly 2 hours and 4 minutes. That's everything you see in this video was 2 hours and 4 minutes, and I sped it up. But yeah, so you can work very quickly with this. Really good to just knock out some quick sketches and stuff like that. And I consider this more of a sketch. It's not like something. I'll probably keep it around. Maybe give it away one day. Or I typically don't sell my artwork. I just tend to hold on to it. I don't know why. I guess it's sentimental or something. I don't like selling my originals. But anyway, so. This isn't white I'm adding to the eye. This is actually kind of as you can see, a little bit of skin color, a little bit of the gray. But the gray is actually a mix of the burnt umber and the blue, so it's more of has color to it. It's not just like pure black. So when it mixes with other colors, it has color to it. Now there I'm adding the highlights back under the nose using a lighter skin tone. Now notice that a lot of these are already dry, and I do use a little dropper tool, and I don't know if you've seen me do that yet, to kind of reactivate the paints and keep them moist. Even though they're on the wet paper towel, the top of them are still getting that film on it. And so several times I had to keep dropping water on it so they wouldn't completely dry out on me. So that's the annoying thing about this stuff, is it does dry very quickly. But yeah, you can reactivate it, like I said, with water. It's just they're just not as thick as, I like working with them very thickly and instead of adding a bunch of layers. Anyway, so when I get to this part, I guess I'm not at that part yet, so we'll go into the eyes here. So the eyes is what I pay a lot of attention to, because that's, with the portraiture, I think that's what draws the viewer in the most, is the eyes. Eyes and lips, that's what I spend most of my detail on. Everything else I kind of do loosely. I do enough detail on the nose, so it looks accurate, but the eyes and lips are the most. Basically work like you would with oils in this, but the only different thing is that with oils you typically would like, well, it depends on your style, but I would like lay down the darks first and then maybe some midtones, and then and all the midtones, maybe even block them all in, and then add my highlights on top of the midtones. Well, in this you don't want to do that. And I know I'm doing it here, but you can see, look how much longer it's taking me now. If I would have just add those light colors in right away, then I could have avoided all this pain, not pain, but all this time that I spent blending over and over and over again. I'd add several layers in order to finally get the light to not look blotchy on top of the midtone. And it wasn't even that much lighter of a tone, so it really, really matters with this paint. If you want to, especially want to save more time and headache, make sure just to leave areas where you want your lightest lights to be. So basically imagine all the colors you want in a cell shaded look, add all those colors in there, maybe 4 different shades, whatever you need, however many you need, just block them in, patch them in, leave those areas where you need the lightest lights in, and so forth. I tried doing a mop brush technique here to try to blend it out with a very, very thick paint. It still doesn't work. When it dries, at first it looked good, and then it dries and then it pulls through. So I'm like, okay, that's no good. So I realized that if I use a blow dryer, it dries super fast, even faster than normal. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the blow dryer. I'm going to keep the blow dryer on, and while the blow dryer is on, I'm going to add in, right now I'm just doing a background. In the background I decided to do very, very light, like watercolor. And you can see it has a resemblance to watercolor, but it's not quite watercolor. It's similar. It gives a similar look, but it doesn't flow the same or anything. Watercolor is like one of my favorite things to work with. So what I realized is if I add these light tones in and blow dry, I'm like, hey, you know what? I can just hold the blow dryer with one hand and paint with the other. And this is what I'm going to do here in just a second. So what this technique does then is, as I'm blow drying, it's drying like instantly, so I can instantly see the result. That is, I can instantly see how much paint pulls through, and exactly what it looks like. And that allows me to see if I have a proper blend. And so when I start doing that, I'm blow drying. I haven't done it yet, but I'll be blow drying and painting at the exact same time. And when I do that, then I can get those highlights to keep layering them on, just a layer at a time. And that's when you get that really cool look. And oh, I guess I already did do that. So sorry. I didn't realize that it was off camera, so I was holding the blow dryer. But basically what I was doing is I was holding the blow dryer and adding the highlights over and over and over again and blending them out. And so basically what I do is, once you have your cells laid out, is go in with a very, very damp brush. You don't want it too wet, just damp. So clean it in the water and then wipe on your paper towel several times. Oh, actually I do it right here. So here I'm drying out with a blow dryer right now. It's being dried. See how fast it's drying? Look at that, boom, almost instantly. That way I can see exactly what it's looking like as I'm adding the colors. Bam, dry, and I can see it's blending very nicely. So that's a really cool technique to use if you do want to do light over a slightly darker color, but I recommend blocking in. Anyway, so once you block in the colors, then with the blow dryer, you can actually take your brush, how you get instant results. And while using the blow dryer, you can take the damp brush, like right there, like I did on the cheek right there, and just take that, just go right over the edge and blend the edge out, similar to oils, how you blend, 2 oil patches together if you want a nice blend between the 2 colors, if you don't want any of the hard lines or brush strokes. And so that's how you do it with the gouache, but you do it with water instead of a dry brush. You use a very, very, just barely damp brush, just enough to have a little bit of water. I'm adding some fine details now to the lips. It looks like I'm all done. Roll it up, and now you're going to see it up close. But yeah, anyway, so if you guys like this you know, you guys want to try, or if there's anyone out there that loves using gouache, loves painting with gouache, let me know. Believe it or not, this was my first time ever painting with gouache, and I learned this in just this one painting, how to use them. I watched a lot of videos and stuff, other people using them, but yeah, after just working with them through this one painting, I was able to figure out how they worked and figure out some cool technique that I know I can do it again much better and much faster. But I don't really like the way they work. But for those that do like gouache and you want a set of really good gouache, let me know. I might do a giveaway on that here next. All right, thanks for watching. Subscribe and stay tuned for the next giveaway, because I'll be doing giveaways. So subscribe and stay tuned for also my next videos. If you like this at all, give it a thumbs up, appreciate it, and share it with your friends, or just share it wherever you like to share stuff. That'd be awesome. And leave a comment if you have any questions. That'd be great too. I love answering questions. So yeah, if you have any questions about gouache in particular, let me know. It's interesting. It's a very interesting medium. And again, stay tuned for giveaways. I'm gonna be giving away a lot of stuff, expensive stuff. So like I said, you know, $1,000 Wacom Cintiq draw right on the screen. It's an amazing tablet. I love it. It's a 12WX, so it's an older model. I now use a 13 touchscreen, but I love them both actually. It's hard to tell which one I like better. The 12WX had better buttons on it, and I really liked some of the buttons on it where they're at. But yeah, so anyway, great tablet, still in excellent condition, and will probably last the rest of your artist lifetime, honestly, until like you can afford to buy some awesomer that comes out. Then I'll be giving away light boards. I have a Huion light board for like doing tracing and stuff like that, making it easier to see through your paper. It's not super bright, but it's enough to see through normal artist paper. I don't recommend it for watercolor paper. It's kind of hard to see through that with that particular light board. Like I said, I'll be giving away different paints and things like that. So I like to test a lot of stuff, and then if I don't like it, then I'll be giving it away rather than like trying to sell it to somebody or whatever. And then also I'll probably be giving away a lot of different watercolor paper. So if you need watercolor paper, it's this paper that I tried and didn't really like too much, but it's great for sketching and stuff. So, but I have a lot of sketch paper already, so I'll be giving away that as well. And yeah, so there's a lot of different art supplies, and I always buy really good art supplies typically. So a lot of it will be expensive art supplies that I'll be giving away. And also, if people make recommendations, let me know what they want. Then I might just like go ahead and buy it and give it away here on the channel. But yeah, so stay tuned for giveaways. Lots of free stuff. And bye for good this time.